Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Dan Procter from Simply CRO, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Samantha Harvey from Dynamic Creative, who's our co-presenter for today's webinar.
Hi Dan, how are you going? It's a pleasure.
Good, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Look, the reason for both of us presenting today is really clear. There's no point in having a website, of course, if you don't have any traffic going to it or the right kind of traffic going to it. And likewise, there's no point spending a lot of money on getting traffic to a website if you've got a low performing website. Sam, if you don't mind, I'll just introduce you quickly to everyone. So Sam's part of the executive leadership team at Dynamic Creative. And Dynamic Creative is actually an ad platform that creates really granular campaigns. It's purpose-built for Google's machine learning, and it's purpose-built to achieve really high returns on your advertising spend. And obviously, Sam's going to explain today what that means and why that's so important. But I will say they're specialists in inventory-based advertising, and they're a Google channel partner, which is a really big deal. And the reason why Google partner with them on this level is that A, they really know their stuff, but B, they've got this really forward-thinking technology that no one else has. Now, Sam personally, she's been in media for 15 years, and even though she's got a lot of experience across a lot of different industries, what I find interesting about her is her behavioural background in behavioural psychology. And as you're going to grow to appreciate during this presentation, this background with the ability to use data, technology, and human behaviour signals means Sam and Dynamic Creative know a lot about building really successful and scaling really successful page search campaigns. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's exciting to be here and be talking about how this partnership certainly goes hand in hand. But I thought I might intro you, Dan, while as well. So it's likewise. I guess the reason that Dynamic Creative and myself is drawn to partner with Simply CRO is not only the obvious synergy of how we help retailers get success. It's how Simply CRO really have behavioural data-driven approach, and it's really ahead of the curve. So it's we certainly trust to refer our clients to Simply CRO. Dan has also been in web development for 15 years. He says he's built like what he feels like a billion websites and is traumatized. But we sure have seen some changes over the time, haven't we, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. These days, they are 100% focused on CRO, which is about optimizing them, not just building them. So Dan's team literally runs thousands of A/B tests a year, making sure the correct result for your website. And we'll just find out as he talks a lot more to a successful website than just looking at good or just sending traffic to it. No point in having traffic if it doesn't convert.
That's right. Thanks, Sam. Well, over to you now to kick off the presentation and all the information.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I guess the first thing I'd like to talk about is like the consumer behaviour and how it's changing, especially over the last 10 to 15 years as we've seen it happen. We're becoming more curious, more demanding, and more impatient. So the three key behaviours that we've seen in 2017 is that we've got our phone in our pocket. Go back, Dan. Yeah, thanks. Is that we've got our phone in our pocket, and information is there whenever we want it at any time. But also, what is changing is technology. So you can go next. Yesterday we just had the desktop that we would search on. Then really, smartphones has changed the way we the way we live. We live online now, and tomorrow, really, artificial intelligence. Well, today that's in play. So I really wanted to go through with how those two things, how your consumers are behaving, and how you need to be best prepared for them. So with Google, machine learning is at the core of everything they are doing. It's where they're rethinking everything that they bring to market, every product, and really having smart marketing down pat. So we really need to be able to keep up with that. And it's had Yeah, and really to set the scene on that, Google currently have 7 platforms that have over 1 billion users each. Imagine the data that they have on each individual, knowing their purchase intentions. There's YouTube, then what people are watching on YouTube, what they're purchasing, their intentions, what they're searching for, all of those kind of things, what movies they're buying through Google Play. So really, the data that they have to be able to use for marketers is pretty impressive now. So what do we really mean by intent data signals is who they are, where they are, and what they want. So, but we can do this at a really a deep level. So the historical data that Google has, I guess, not all people are searching equal. So the historical data that Google has can now predict intent and identify your potential partners. So you can go next, Dan. So what we used to do, so yesterday what we used to do was look at demographics. So we'd look at demographics and look at women who are 30, who are 54, and we think they all search and behave the same when they don't. So it was a really an unsegmented one approach to media. And we'd also advertise the content. So for example, we would see a travel website and we'd put an airline ad on there, just hoping, crossing our fingers that they would buy through that ad. What we can do, and really the reason that we did that, if you go next, the reason we did that is that we only had these 2 signals to go by, so demographics and location. So whilst that was impressive at the time, what we can do now is, because Google have all of those platforms and 1 billion users per month on each of them, we actually know all of these things about a user and what their intent to purchase is. So we can see what videos they've watched, their age and gender, what time of day they search, I guess, so the apps they use, what they've purchased on, their browsing history. All of these things are called intent signals that Google can use to really, I guess, target your advertising and predict intent. So, for example, let's look at Cliff here. He's 27 years old. He lives in New York City, and his yearly income 150K. So we could make a lot of assumptions about Cliff and think, okay, well, what can we target and what can we advertise to him? But what we really want to do is advertise to Cliff's deeper self. So we now know that he is actually a company art director, interested in literature, likes country music, and he watches unboxing videos, which is really popular, by the way. So, so this is where, as a retailer, or we would like to advertise to Cliff's deeper self. This is what he's most likely to convert on. So really, when it comes to manual management of being able to do this, when you've got a lot of inventory, whether it be any kind of industry, whether it be service vertical, you service a lot of areas or a lot of products, it's becoming more complex. So to be able to the volume and the searches and complexity and the trends are growing. So it's what we need. Without automation, we'll be spending 80% of our time doing tasks such as bidding, maintaining ad creative, and turning ads on and off, and all of those things that take a long time to do. And then really only 20% is left on strategy, which isn't very efficient. So disruption is an actual word that we hear a lot in business today, but it's usually about fear of something else disrupting us. But what we have to do is disrupt our own business. So it's really about, I guess, when you're stabilizing, you're growing incrementally, or really maintaining the status quo isn't where you want to be. You really want to scale and grow your business, and you need, to be powered by ad tech to be able to do that. So why use a platform that's purpose-built for Google's machine learning? Because it equals greater results. So what Dynamic Creative's platform, patented platform, does is it actually sets you up for success because it creates granular campaigns that the machines can learn from. So, so really, by teaming up with our platform and Google, it's kind of made the impossible possible, because now we can actually make granular campaigns so the machines can learn. For example, if I like a belt and someone else likes earrings, you can bid higher for me if I'm looking for a belt. So now we can actually do that if you have a granular campaign architecture. So it's also really complex to be able to set up. So, you know, we've got to make sure that your product titles and all of those things are correct. Right. So also our platform also has a search vertical. So people actually search, and this is actually patented to us. So it's kind of a game changer for e-commerce. So what happens here is that people do search, and you can think of how you search yourself. People could search at all different ways. They could search at a top level all the way down to a really granular level, because and having your ad there at every stage of that search is really important. So let me just see. So as you can see in these ads here, so what our system does automatically is it makes an ad for every category, subcategory, brand, promotion, every filterable item on your site. It puts pricing in the ad, even at a category level, as you can see here, where it says women's hoodies from X amount to X amount. It pre-qualifies your click. It is the best user experience for Google, Google's users. So it's really how we get the cost per click down. And you can see here that really when people start to get down and search Longtail is really where when they convert, and the highest conversion, I guess, possibility. So why Longtail Keywords? It is the secret to getting the best return. So we need to segment to the deepest level possible. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but $15 billion in Australia was from Longtail last year. And the Longtail actually gives you 30% lower cost per click because of how granular that is. And by having a granular campaign, then your ad will return. It has a 50 to 70% of searches are 4+ words. We want the most relevant search return, so that is what the behavior is now. And 2.5 times more likely to convert. So if you can imagine having 5,000, if you had 5,000 products, or you have a service business that covers the whole country, if you were to try and make that campaign manually, it would literally be impossible. So the software and the platform, for a customer, for example, that has 5,000 products, we built out 900 campaigns, over 4,000 ad groups, keywords and ads, etc. As you can read there, as you can imagine, you could not do that manually, and it gives the machine learning the best possible way to be able to predict intent. So really, automation opens up big possibilities. So because the team at Dynamic Creative, the platform does all the heavy lifting, which would only take 20% of the time because it does need to be watched. But our team have 80% of their time on strategy, being able to check negatives and making sure that your account is at the most efficient level possible. And really, you could actually do all of these things that I've spoken about and do them really, really well. But if we get you a lot of traffic to your site and quality traffic, which is what this does, and it doesn't convert, it is half useless. So it kind of needs to make sure that it converts when it gets there. Over to you, Dan.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Sam. I totally agree. Look, increasing traffic or having a lot of traffic, it unfortunately doesn't mean a lot of sales or increased sales. And you know, and I know that campaigns can really struggle just because the website is just simply not performing. So you're spending all that time, all that money, only for visitors to leak or to bounce from your website. And you know, still today, many strategies are focused on just acquiring traffic. And the problem with that is you've just got a lot of traffic. And it also, at some point, your revenue, your return on that investment is going to be capped by the budget that you've got. And as this diagram says here, where the magic really happens is where you increase conversions. And CRO, the job of a CRO, the agency or an optimizer, is to increase conversions. So many of us don't have a traffic problem, we've got conversion opportunity. So just taking a step back, what is CRO? It's the science and the art of increasing the percentage of visitors that convert into customers. Now, conversion can be many things to different websites. E-commerce want to make sales on the spot. Business-to-business services businesses, they like to generate leads. Charities and not-for-profits, they might like donations, and a SaaS application might like to increase subscriptions. But ultimately, we're all looking to increase profit, revenue and profit. So that's the job of a CRO agency, to work hard with people driving traffic like Dominant Creative. The way that it works is our job is to identify how users are moving through the site. So we know where they're landing, what actions they're taking, where they're leaving, and our job is to find out what's stopping them. So for us, we need to understand who's buying from you and how do they like to buy. We need to really understand who we're talking to, but also where they've come from. It's important we know what drove them to the site so that we match that message, match that intent, match that expectation. A lot of our work is about finding out the information that people need to make a decision, and when it's not there, why are they leaving? Also, from a motivational point of view, when do they buy? It's really important to know when they buy, because when they buy is motivation. Essentially, our job is about motivating visitors and reducing friction on the website. So motivation can be things like using urgency, clarity, those sorts of things. And friction is technical bugs, and I can't find this information, and when will I get it? And frustration, basically. So e-consultancy says companies with a structured approach to both generating good traffic and improving conversions are twice as likely to see a large increase in sales as to companies just doing one or the other. So the way that it works, step one, as I said, is to gather the data. There's a lot of data that we're gathering about your customers' interaction with the website. And once the sort of data that we're gathering, obviously we're looking at Google Analytics, and Google Analytics gives us the where, so where people are buying, where people are leaving. But we're also gathering qualitative data, so things like user testing and polls and surveys, and that gives us the why people are leaving. So we know where, and now we start to build up a picture of why. So once you know the where and the why, you have insights into the customer behavior and why they are or aren't buying. And it's time to execute new designs or A/B testing. As Sam said, we do a lot of A/B testing every year. And the best part of testing is only winning tests go live. So for the business, instead of your conversion rate stagnating when winners go live and losers go live, we only put tests with win live, so you're consistently seeing an improvement in your conversion rate and your profit. Step three is we're constantly going back, looking at results, iterating, running new tests and improving. So that's about how we do it. I thought I'd give you some examples of, some real examples of how CRO helps improve revenue and the mindset of an optimizer. It's not as complicated as you think. So let's talk about human emotion here for a second. One of the key outcomes for us is to reduce the feeling of risk that a visitor may feel when he's just about, or she may feel when she's just about to purchase your product. If you look at this, this is a word cloud here from some polls that we ran on this bedding company website. So you can see clearly here that aside from the obvious, which is price, the comfort of the mattress was a real risk, a real concern for users before they were going to buy. So we did a little bit of analysis of the website, and we found out they had this really good 100-day free trial. So in terms of reducing the risk, it's a pretty good strategy. So when you say to someone, you're not sure how this is going to feel, that's all right. We've got you covered. We've got a 100-day risk-free trial. If you don't like it, send it back to us. And the test in this particular occasion was to add this simple banner with an explanation right at the decision point. This test really worked well, 26% uplift in revenue. I'm not going to tell you what that revenue was, but it was very good. because he's asked me to. The other thing that CRO does, and this is talking about return on your marketing investment, is not only is it creating a more pleasant experience and making things faster, easier, smoother, but it's also optimizing other elements of your funnel, of your return. So this means we spend a lot of time working on average order values. If in the case of an e-commerce website, how do we get people to spend more? And how do we get people to spend more times? Like, how do we get them back to the site? Aside from what Sam and Dynamic Creative would do in search. And email automation, for example, is part of that picture of an optimizer. I can't emphasize enough about communicating your value proposition really clearly. It's one of the most important things you can do, and we often hide it. So you've got to communicate it up front. You've got to communicate it quickly. You've got to remember that visitors are comparing you to 3 other sites or 3 other businesses. And in this particular case here, we ran some polls, some user polls. People had finished their transaction to find out what motivated them to continue shopping, to finish the transaction with this particular client. And what we found was the users who were buying were motivated by the fact that they had Afterpay. They were motivated by the fact that they had been in business for 50 years, and they were motivated by the fact that they're a family-owned business. This was their value proposition. So our test was to communicate these, particularly on mobile in this case, with this little slide that they run through. Quite a simple test, but the results: 120 extra orders per month. You can imagine the annual impact. And that's just one test. We might run 4, 6 tests in a month. So the simple things are often what count. Technical issues, I'm not going to harp on about this, but in the world of an optimizer, they are the most neglected thing on a website, and they return the highest and fastest returns. If you want to annoy someone, have a bug on your website, have a slow website. And as it says there, 82% of websites have speed issues, and I'm sure you can go and Google how speed relates to conversion and be suitably impressed. But in terms of that conversion pyramid, it is one of the most important things we look at. We look for bugs. We literally sit there and watch session cam recordings looking for bugs on the website, ongoing. Really encourage you to go and sign up to usertesting.com. We use it to observe users, watch them moving through your site, and we're looking for areas of friction, for patterns across a number of users. Where was buying from you difficult? What questions were they asking? It's a really fast way to gather that why data, that why aren't people buying with you? We talked just before about value propositions. You can often find out the things that are missing in your value proposition from user testing. It's very cheap too, $50 a user, so it's almost a no-brainer. Anxiety. We spoke about risk before. Anxiety is another thing that customers often feel on your site, whether e-commerce or a service business. We all know that you've got a lot of questions, and people do a lot of research before they'll pick up the phone or they'll make a decision to buy. That's the way of the world. So you've got to answer those customers' questions before they ask them. So that might be about where what size I am, how fast I'll get it, how long you've been in business, can I come and see you, can I call you? And one of the ways that we find out a lot of those questions is we use live chat. Now, live chat does 2 things. It gives us the common questions, the common anxiety for people in that earlier stage of the buying funnel, but also it answers those questions, so pushes them down the funnel. It's funny, people will often ask different questions to live chat than they will on a phone or filling in a form. So really, really good tool. And I highly recommend you don't try and run it yourself on the side. One of the other jobs of the salesperson. If assuming you've got the traffic, it's a dedicated role. So there's companies that offer this service, and it's 24/7, and that's all they do. I really encourage, and we've seen much better results doing it that way than a side job. Clarity. I always say there's not really anything cool or tricky or funky or sophisticated that we do. A lot of the time, the friction on the website is from a lack of clarity. So often our job is to dumb things down. We often see, people being too clever with their designs or their call to actions being too hard to see. And that is a picture of a heat map. And what that does, and that's from a tool called Hotjar, and we use heat maps all the time to see if people are missing the key information or our call to actions on the website. So here's an example of that. One of the earlier tests that I ran for a client, still a client of ours, this is mobile device, and on the heat map, they've got these cute little icons. And on the heat map, we could see there was absolutely no activity. No one was clicking on these cute little icons. Whereas on desktop, they had these quite clear buttons here about what to do, and everyone was clicking on it. So the problem for this customer is most of their traffic was mobile and no one was clicking on their main call to action. So the test was to change from these icons and make things clearer by going back to these really clear buttons and quote request doubles. So as I say, a lot of the time it's about being clearer. It's about dumbing things down, about not being too cute. I mean, we're all busy. We're all, doing 10 things at once. So don't make me think is the point here. Urgency is a great one, particularly for e-commerce. We use these countdown timers all the time. The offer's not going to last. The price will go up. The stock's going to run out. And the better job you do of reminding people of that they need to act now, the more sales you generate. This particular test was over the long weekend, and we just let people know that there was a good offer on and it was going to run out. And we split the traffic 50-50, and the 50% that was getting the timer had a 45% extra revenue. So we put the test live very quickly to 100% of the audience. So yeah, urgency is an important thing. Now, distractions. A confused mind never buys. If you've got too many call to actions on the page that are competing with each other, too many options, they're getting confused. They've got to buy. They won't buy. In this particular screenshot, you can see competing call to actions, and I'm not really sure what to do here. We've really got to keep them focused, in this case, when they're in the cart, but if service business, it might be on the contact page. And in this case, what we tested was clearing up the design, making it really clear what the call to actions were here by the different use of colors. And we added this little trust strip. So, we talk about trust a lot. And that was just about their return policy. So they had, A, they could find what they needed to do, the next step. And B, there was this trust factor added up to the top of the page. Now, here's why we test. I'm not here to say all our tests win. I mean, this was winning, but it was only 2% improvement, not a really big deal. All the signs around, the other micro conversions were telling us this was a good test, but something's clearly wrong with that small uplift. So we went back and looked at our video session recordings and we found a bug. The technical issues, there it is again, bug in the final step of the checkout. God knows how long it was there, but it was killing the test and the original page. We got the bug fixed, and instantly we had an improvement from 2% to 14%. And I can tell you that the annual impact of this single test was nearly $60,000, and we run 4 to 6 tests a month. So a big deal. Technical issues. I'm going to thank you for your time, everyone. I'm going to pass over to Samantha now. She's got a special offer for people who've been with us here today. Thank you, Sam. Sam's disappeared, so I'll talk about my offer in that case. So we offer.
Sorry, I was on mute. You go, Dan. You go first.
Yeah, look, we offer a free conversion audit, and our audit, obviously, we've got an initial discussion and an analysis of your website to understand the user flow issues that could be there. And then we back that up by getting into analytics, into Google Analytics, to literally identify the areas of the site where you're getting the most traffic, yet are leaking the most money. So we look at your conversion funnel. And then finally, we'll present recommendations on how you fix those leaks and a conversion plan moving forward. My details are at the bottom of the presentation here, and I know they'll be distributed to you later. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and thanks for that, Dan. It was really good and insightful to hear about how you're going to pay for a click. You may as well make the most of it and convert it. So what I'm going to offer today is an efficiency for scale audit, and it's really from the specialist. So it'll start with a 15-minute meeting with me on the executive leadership team, just to really go through your business needs. A tracking tag audit, looking at how your tracking tags, seeing if you're in a false economy. A campaign audit, making sure your architecture is in the correct or the best practice and how it can be used for machine learning. And then I'll actually present to you a full written tailored campaign plan, and we can go from there.
Beautiful.
I do make details as well to contact if you've got any questions after the event as well.
Fantastic. Well, on that point of questions, I think we'll hand over to the audience now. If you've got any questions, please reach out. We can answer a couple of them now.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. It was a wonderful presentation, swift and full of information. I'm sure the audience enjoyed and gained a lot from it. So Samantha, the first question is for you.
Yeah.
It says. You've just mentioned that Google has over 1 billion people on each platform. Like, what are the different ways we as a company can use that data?
So it's really about predicting intent. So it's actually knowing what kind of behavior a person does. Just for example, if my husband, he actually is an avid gardener. So he would watch on YouTube how to use a certain chainsaw or whatever it is. So we know that he's in market for gardening equipment and things like that. So I know that we can Google knows that we can actually put ads in front of him that would be about gardening or related products. So it is really about knowing the behavior of people across all of those platforms, which is a lot of data points. I think it's 70 billion in 100 milliseconds or something like that is how much they gain data. So it's just about being able to really target and making sure that we put an ad in front of people who are the most likely to convert.
Right. So ads are primarily the way you can use this data. Is there any other way you think?
Yeah. So well, for Google, it's about advertising. So that's the reason that they do that. So that's the kind of but what you can do is once you have this data, you can actually, I guess, build your own database. And then use that for even for your own email marketing, like Dan was saying, for trying to get lookalike audiences. There's things that you can do by capturing people that are in market. So there's things down the line that you can do, but really it is about the efficiencies in your marketing campaign, because that's what Google is.
Right. Well, great. So let's move to the next question. It's for Dan. Dan, you talked about Afterpay. Can you just let us know how can startups utilize this? And because you mentioned that it was a 50-year-old company that tried it, but how can startups use this? It's a very powerful thing, but what's the way to use it for startups?
Look, it's particularly they might be a 50-year-old company, but they are also a modern e-commerce company, generating millions online. So particularly useful for e-commerce companies. I mean, who wouldn't want to pay off something over 4 weeks instead of 2? So you just need to make the application to Afterpay. There are some categories that cannot use Afterpay. I have a client, for example, that sells bathroom products, and for some reason they're classed as building, and therefore that's a category that can't be used. But look, I can tell you we run... so go and check them out is the answer. But I can tell you we run various different tests of ways of promoting Afterpay, and it's very, very successful. People love it, absolutely love it. So go and check it out.
All right, great. I think we are out of time right now. So what we'll do is we'll also send an email to every delegate. And mention the email ID and phone number of the speakers. You can contact directly with them, and we'll definitely have another webinar with them on a very intriguing topic, and we'd love to have you again. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in for today's webinar. It was great to have you on board, and looking forward for many such webinars, and we'll stay in touch. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.